I would guess that every couple fights, and a long weekend with the in-laws can make anyone extra tense. But would a man with everything to live for just simply disappear? And would he really leave it all behind? Did he finally have enough, or did someone else ensure that he never came home again? This is the disappearance of Chance Englebert. Chance Englebert really seemed to have it all. A loving family, a passion for rodeo, and a bright, stable future ahead of him. Born on December 2nd, 1993 in Edgemont, South Dakota, Chance was a cowboy at heart. He grew up on his family's ranch in Burdock, South Dakota, with his parents and 2 brothers. And through high school rodeo competitions, he earned a bull riding scholarship to Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There, he became a champion rider and earned degrees in welding and diesel mechanics. He also had a love for demolition derby cars and racing. His mother, Dawn, shared that Chance was a good kid, shy and hardworking, a smart kid. He was also a relatively new father. He and his wife Bailey had a 3-month-old son named Banks, and they were settling down in the tiny town of Moorcroft, Wyoming. And as it happens with life's usual ups and downs, Chance had recently lost his job. He had been working as a welder at a coal mine, but unfortunately about 600 workers, including Chance, were laid off. However, a hardworking and capable person like Chance was able to pivot very quickly, and he had been hired on by a local propane company, and he was set to start his new job after the 4th of July weekend. And it was during that long weekend that Chance, Bailey, and their son Banks took a road trip to visit Bailey's grandparents in Gearing, Nebraska. On Saturday, July 6, 2019, the men of the family went golfing, with Chance happily joining in. Bailey kept in contact with him during the game, and he seemed to be having a good time. The men were enjoying drinks, cracking jokes, and sharing a lot of laughs. But something soured the mood, because shortly after their last conversation, Chance called Bailey back, asking her to come pick him up. He was angry over something that one of his golf partners had said about his new job at the propane dealer. In the car, he told Bailey that he wanted to return to Wyoming. And as they drove back to her grandparents' house, an argument began between them. When they pulled into the driveway, Chance got out of the car and abruptly walked away. This was kind of common for Chance. He would often walk away and cool off after an argument, so Bailey just sighed and let him have his time. Chance left the driveway on foot around 7:30 p.m. Bailey tried calling him, but when he didn't answer, she went out looking for him, but he was nowhere to be found. Finally, at 7:46 p.m., he picked up her call. He told her he was walking south toward Kimball, and then he hung up on her. As he made his way through the town of Gearing, Chance called various family members and his best friend Matt, asking each one of them if they could come pick him up. However, all of them were several hours away or unable to come get him. To those who did speak with him, it was clear that Chance wanted out of Gearing, and since he couldn't get a ride, he was determined to walk the 35 miles toward Torrington, Wyoming. Torrington is located west of Gearing, Nebraska, whereas the town he told Bailey he was walking toward, which was Kimball, is to the south. Unfortunately, he never made it to either of these places. Adding to the confusion, at 7:51 p.m., Chance was last seen on a business surveillance video, walking alone in neighboring Terrytown. The business is located at 10th Street and Martha Drive. In the video, you can see him looking down at his phone before taking an almost 90-degree turn to the left, almost as if he's following a map. His last communication was a text to his aunt at 9:08 p.m., but it was just a jumble of emojis and letters and really didn't make any sense to anyone. And his mother noted that Chance never used emojis when he was texting someone. Around the time this text was sent, a strong thunderstorm hit the area. Then it appears that Chance's phone died and he hasn't been seen or heard from since. Chance was last seen wearing a short-sleeve button-up Wrangler shirt with dark blue jeans, a belt with a rodeo buckle, old-school roper boots, and a black and white trucker cap. He is 5 foot 9 inches tall, about 190 pounds, with sunlightened brown hair, a mustache, and a goatee. Bailey's family said they thought he must have sheltered inside a local business or nearby building due to the storm. When the storm was over, Bailey's grandfather drove around town looking for Chance, but his search came up empty. And the next morning, when he still hadn't returned to the grandparents' house, Bailey filed a missing persons report with the Gearing Police Department. Her father and several others went out searching for Chance. Posts were made to Facebook the following day about Chance being missing. These posts indicated that Bailey had been in contact with Chance's mom and the local police on July 7th. According to Gearing Chief of Police George Holthus, over 147 people participated in ground searches, covering 2,400 acres of land. 18 different agencies were involved. The Nebraska State Police and AirLink conducted a combined 380 miles of air searches, and K-9 units searched around 10 different local lakes, also ponds and the river. The central Gearing Canal was also drained, and despite all these efforts, no real clues have been found about where he is or what happened to him. 4 months after Chance disappeared, his best friend Matt Miller, who was the last person to talk to Chance, started his own search effort called Let's Start with Chance.
I feel like we need to look for Chance a little bit harder, and I didn't feel like anybody else would do the job like I could, so I'm gonna try it myself.
Why did Chance tell his wife he was headed for Kimball when he was actually headed for Torrington? Was he trying to mislead her about where he was really going? Or did he just change his mind after talking to her? Would he actually leave his wife and child on purpose? Chance's disappearance and the events surrounding it caused a deep rift between Bailey and her family and the Engelberts and Matt Miller. Rumors and speculation began to form about Bailey's behavior in the days following Chance's disappearance. To the general public, the first concerns about Bailey's behavior surfaced during the family's press briefing on July 10th. During this briefing, while Chance's mom looked understandably distraught, Bailey didn't appear as fazed by the situation.
Yes, I'm Dawn Engelbert. I'm Chance's mom. My husband Edward. Our boy Miles. You know Bailey.
Bailey and Banks.
Scott. We just ask anybody to send any information. Somebody had to see something and know something. This just isn't Chance. He's not like this. He definitely would have went for a walk for a few hours to clear his mind, but he would have been home. He would have been with his son.
In the video, she almost seems bored, just waiting for it to be over. Hardly the reaction you'd expect from a wife whose husband and the father of her child had just vanished. One would think that she'd be desperate to get the message out and find any information at all about his whereabouts. Based on her overall demeanor, maybe she was just treating the press briefing as a formality. Maybe she already knew where Chance was and had made peace with it. However, it's important to note that people experience grief differently. And of course, Bailey doesn't need to demonstrate her grief publicly to satisfy others' expectations. Maybe at this point in the investigation, she hadn't come to terms with the possibility that Chance might really be gone. Or perhaps at that moment she was distracted by her baby, or just overwhelmed in general. But behind the scenes, even before that press briefing, to Chance's mom there were other things that might be considered red flags. The day after Chance vanished, so July 7th, Dawn, his mother, spoke with Bailey over the phone. Bailey was crying, and she said she feared that Chance would come home in a body bag. Dawn tried to reassure her, urging her to remain hopeful, but she did find the comment strange. But to be fair to Bailey, she was a young mother. It seems that she and Chance met, quickly got married, and shortly after that had a baby. And when Chance disappeared, she was only 20 years old. Most people aren't fully mature or especially socially sophisticated at 20. One could argue that Bailey was just simply thinking about the worst case scenario. In an interview with the Vanish podcast, Chance's mom Dawn shared that on Tuesday, July 9th, after talking with the police, Bailey asked for a death certificate for Chance. Keep in mind, this was a mere 3 days after Chance had gone missing. At this point, there had been no indication that he might be dead, and people were still actively searching for him. Brian Eads, an investigator with the Gearing police, also confirmed that Bailey had asked for the death certificate. He too had noted this as a red flag, but Bailey had explained her reasoning. She was suddenly an unemployed single mother and needed the death certificate for their infant son to begin receiving Chance's Social Security benefits. Eads mentioned that Bailey had always been extremely cooperative with the investigation. During that same podcast interview, Dawn mentioned that she learned through the police that Bailey's family had hired a lawyer, which she found suspicious. Why would anyone need a lawyer in a missing persons case? On the other hand, you could argue that having legal counsel is just smart, especially if there's a chance that you could be seen as a suspect. Still, this choice only fueled public speculation and did little to quiet the rumors. Dawn also shared with the podcaster that Bailey and Chance had a tumultuous relationship and that she had offered many times to pay for them to go to relationship therapy. Chance was 25 years old and Bailey was 20 at the time of his disappearance. They also had a 3-month-old child together, and already having weathered a layoff from Chance's previous job, it's absolutely believable that they had marital troubles. Recall that Matt Miller, Chance's best friend and the best man at his wedding, had also started his own ongoing search effort. Matt later sat down for an interview with Lynn DeSanto, a former South Dakota legislator and now Montana resident. Lynn ran a YouTube channel called Lynn Seeks, which focuses on investigating mysterious disappearances. She took an interest in Chance Englebert's case after seeing his mother, Dawn, crying for her missing son on television. Like Dawn, Lynn is also a mother to 3 boys. In the interview, Matt talked about his close friendship with Chance. He also highlighted some of the tensions he'd noticed in Chance and Bailey's relationship before the disappearance.
I don't know 100% what that was all about, but I was under the impression that Bailey didn't want Chance's family at the wedding, and there was a big, backlash to that during that night after everybody got to drinking and whatnot.
Okay, so Chance had his family at the wedding, and you were told that she maybe was not happy about that, and there was some type of fight that occurred around that.
And then he also pointed out some red flags he noticed around the time that Chance went missing. One of these was having to do with a suspicious cell phone found on Chance and Bailey's porch.
There's something about a cell phone. Can you tell me that story again?
Yeah, at the point in time, I don't remember which day it was now. So the cell phone ended up on Chance's and Bailey's porch. Okay. And I never seen it. No idea. I called Bailey because I live 15 minutes from them and told her that a friend of mine had stopped by to check and see if Chance was home and found this cell phone.
So this must have been right after he was missing.
Yeah, this is everybody looking for him.
This is everybody. Okay, so he's just disappeared. Somebody goes to his house to see if he's there. He's not there, but there's a cell phone laying on the porch.
Yes.
Okay.
Really odd.
Just laying there.
Yes.
Okay. And so that friend calls you and tells you, hey, there's a cell phone on the porch. Did he take the cell phone? The friend that found it?
No.
He didn't. Okay, so you did what?
Well, I told him I was on my way into town. I'll take a look at it as soon as I get there. He left it there, and then on my way to town, I called Bailey and asked if there should be a cell phone laying around there, and she said no. So by the time I got there, she had already called a neighbor, and that neighbor came and got it and left town with it. So I don't understand what happened.
Left town with the cell phone?
Yes.
And do we have any idea whose cell phone this was?
No idea. When I had the friend's number, I talked to him, and he said it had nothing to do with Chance's disappearance and that he was already in Deadwood. So I got a little upset, wanted him to turn it into the police. I don't know if it ever did.
The cell phone was eventually turned over to investigators. They determined that it belonged to a homeless person and had been cleared. However, there had been mixed reactions regarding how this potential clue was handled, especially with the delay in turning it over to detectives and its possible connections to Chance's disappearance. Lynn DeSanto describes herself as a bulldog, unafraid to ruffle feathers. She's posted videos sharing various theories about Chance's disappearance, including one suggesting that he was killed and buried under a concrete walkway at the home of one of Bailey's friends. For the record, this theory was investigated to the satisfaction of Chance's family, and no evidence was found. In February 2020, according to a police report, Lynn visited Bailey's home in Moorcroft. Feeling uncomfortable with this and afraid that Lynn was filming her home, Bailey called 911. The officer that arrived informed Lynn that Bailey had been dealing with others bothering her at home. And after this, Bailey's lawyer sent Lynn a cease and desist letter, accusing her of promoting unfounded and slanderous stories implicating Bailey in Chance's disappearance. This letter also accused Lynn of trespassing and causing more people to stalk and harass Bailey. Ultimately, a Wyoming judge issued a stalking protection order against Lynn, ruling that her actions did qualify as stalking under state law. Aside from speculation in this case, there have been some updates. In October 2021, a shirt and an arm bone were found near Scottsbluff, Nebraska, but DNA testing concluded that they did not belong to Chance. More recently, in June 2024, a post appeared on Reddit in the subreddit r/Nebraska by a now-deleted user named Confident Attempt 452. The post, titled Chance Paradise Haven, alleged that a man named Adric Blanco confessed to beating Chance to death. According to the user, Blanco claimed he was only supposed to scare Chance, but ended up killing him. The user also suggested that Chance's body was hidden in a septic manhole near a trailer at the end of West Overland and Scottsbluff, and that there was a cover-up within the police department by Sheriff Jim Lawson. However, there are some glaring inaccuracies in these claims. Chance disappeared in July and not in May as the user had stated. Additionally, commenters pointed out that Jim Lawson was not the county sheriff at the time of Chance's disappearance. His term ended in 2010 and Chance disappeared in 2019. The Engelbert family stated on Facebook that they have been aware of most of what has been said for months, if not years, on these names. The family's private investigator, Ryan Daniel, also addressed this in his own post. He shared that a similar story had been told to him by someone attempting to extort reward money from the Engelberts. The individual repeatedly changed their story, and Daniel's interviews based on this lead went nowhere. Even more recently, in July 2024, Daniel revealed some promising new tips he had received. One came from a convenience store clerk who claimed to have seen a man matching Chance's description, arguing with another man in the store. The clerk said Chance bought alcohol and tobacco and left around 8:30 to 9 p.m., aligning with the time Chance went missing. The second lead came from a tip about two women in their mid-20s who were seen in what is described as a state of panic, attempting to stop traffic near where Chance had last been seen, and they were later picked up by a truck driven by someone they seemed to know. Despite these leads, much remains unknown about why and how Chance vanished.
Of course, in my line of work, we never rule anything out. It's unfortunate, but foul play is still on the table, yes.
Chance's family and friends have done an amazing job of keeping his case from growing cold. Their dedication truly is admirable. They, along with Bailey and Banks, have all lost someone dearly important to them. This loss continues to affect all of them to this day, beyond the obvious grief of losing a son, a friend, husband, and father. Chance's mom, Dawn, hasn't seen her grandson, Banks, since her son disappeared, and as a result, baby Banks has lost an entire half of his extended family. Bailey and her family continue to be targets of speculation. And while it's logical to look at the spouse in an investigation, living under such scrutiny must be an absolute nightmare. Bailey has ceased all interviews and holds no social media accounts due to death threats. Her family and friends have closed ranks around her and aim to defend her on social media, and sometimes that results in slinging of their own mud. Chance Englebert's story is a stark reminder of how quickly life can change in just an instant. The last moments we spend with our loved ones are often taken for granted, simply because we don't realize those are the last moments until it's too late. The anguish of having someone you love go missing never truly fades, especially for little Banks, who was so very young when his father disappeared, and will undeniably be shaped by this tragedy. For Chance's family and friends who are at the forefront of this nightmare, I am truly sorry this had to happen to all of you, and I hope that one day the truth will be revealed.